Hi, and welcome to the African Cinema Podcast. This is your host, Tendai. And today we delve into the century-long saga of Ghana's cinematic history. This will reflect the very soul of a nation, evolving from colonial entertainment for elites to a vibrant independent industry known as Ghollywood. Ghana's cinematic journey represents one of Africa's most distinctive film traditions, next maybe to Nigeria. And it's basically a story told through its people, its films, and the institutions that supported it. Now, to start us off, our story begins in the early decades of the 20th century, when the Gold Coast, modern-day Ghana, was a colony under British rule. Its cities pulsed with change, colonial hierarchy, and imported culture, as most colonial cities at that time. Among these imported fascinations was cinema itself. The very first permanent cinema house opened its doors in Accra in 1923, although some sources suggest the first recorded film screening occurred even earlier, in 1903. This early cinema, however, wasn't for everyone. It was an exclusive form of entertainment accessible only to the wealthy elite, particularly colonial administrators and their associates. Cinema venues were strategically located in urban areas throughout the 1920s and were designed to serve the upper echelons of colonial society, reflecting the broader social hierarchies where access to modern amenities was largely determined by economic status. Crucially, it wasn't in local languages, nor was it the lives of the Ghanaian people. A significant transformation, however, occurred in 1948 when the colonial government took a bold step, establishing the Gold Coast Film Unit within the Information Services Department. This development represented a fundamental shift in how colonial authorities perceived film. No longer merely entertainment, but a scientifically acceptable system for influencing society. The film unit utilized distinctive green-yellow Bedford mobile cinema fans, taking documentaries, newsreels, and government information films free of charge to both urban and rural populations. These films aim to inform and influence, covering topics like health promotion, agricultural improvement, living conditions, marketing, and community cooperation, thereby shaping society and advancing colonial development objectives. Crucially, with this machinery of control, a seed of resistance was planted. That same year, African technicians were trained to use the camera, light a scene, and direct an image. From the fringes, they began to master the craft. This marked the first systematic effort to develop indigenous film production capacity, building local technical expertise that would prove invaluable in later periods. Then in 1952, something historic happened. The Gold Coast Film Unit produced a feature film titled The Boy Kumasenu. Directed by Sean Graham, it told the honest and human story of a village boy who migrates to Accra in search of a better life, encountering both opportunities and challenges in urban life. This groundbreaking production, the first feature film made by the Gold Coast Film Unit, demonstrated the potential for locally produced cinema that addressed African experiences. The Boy Kumasenu achieved considerable international recognition, receiving a diploma from the Venice Film Festival, premiering at the 1952 Edinburgh Film Festival, and earning a British Academy Film Award nomination in 1953. This wasn't just a movie, it was a moment, as a story from the Gold Coast made its way to the world stage. Now, when Ghana gained independence in 1957, cinema gained a new profound purpose. Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, Ghana's first president, understood the strategic importance of film for nation building and cultural identity formation, seeing it as an engine for self-definition. In 1964, he founded the Ghana Film Industry Corporation, GFISC, in Kanda, Accra, creating a centralized government-controlled film production system. This initiative reflected Nkrumah's broader Pan-African ideology and his commitment to using media as a tool for African liberation and self-determination. The GFIC represented a direct response to negative portrayals of Africans in colonial-era films, aiming to counteract the negative impact of colonial government films and to restore citizens' pride in being Ghanaians and Africans. Nkrumah's vision extended beyond mere entertainment to encompass education, cultural preservation, and the promotion of African values and perspectives. The corporation was designed to use indigenous Ghanaian films to help Africans gain self-sufficiency. Recognizing the need for technical expertise, Nkrumah initiated an ambitious program to send promising Ghanaian filmmakers abroad for professional training. This investment in human capital development produced a generation of skilled professionals who would become the backbone of Ghana's film industry. Notable figures who emerged from this period include Reverend Chris Hesse, also referred to as Essie, Mr. Ernest Abeyakwai, and Kwaw Ansah, all of whom received government-sponsored training abroad and returned to build a film culture at home. The 1960s and 70s saw the creation of nearly 150 short films under GFIC. These productions were all designed to promote national development and counter negative stereotypes, covering diverse themes from agricultural policy to gender roles, and Ghana's socio-economic development, cultural heritage, and national identity. The government's monopoly on film production during this period ensured that cinematic content aligned with official policy objectives. Perhaps the most famous feature film of this era came in 1970, called I Told You So. A satirical comedy directed by Egbert Ajesu, it told the story of a headstrong young woman who marries against her father's wishes, only to discover her husband is an armed robber. Starring Bob Cole, Margaret Kwanyo, and Kweku Cranston, the film mixed laughter with social critique. It signaled a shift, whereby Ghanaian filmmakers were ready to entertain and reflect society all at once, focusing on contemporary social issues rather than just historical or educational themes. To further professionalize the industry, in 1978, a crucial institution was born, the National Film and Television Institute. Created by the government to train filmmakers and broadcasters, NFTI professionalized the industry, educating a new generation of editors, screenwriters, and directors. It would go on to produce many of the elements that define modern Ghanaian cinema today. But the winds of change were coming. Ghana, like much of Africa, experienced political upheavals in the 1980s. The state could no longer fund cinema at the same scale. This era marked a revolutionary transformation with the emergence of independent film production, breaking the government's monopoly that had characterized the previous 2 decades and coinciding with broader economic liberalization policies that favored private enterprise. The pivotal moment in this transformation came in 1981 when Kwaw Ansah, a filmmaker trained under the GFIC era, released Love Brewed in the African Pot. Shot on 35mm film and funded outside state structures, it was a sweeping romantic drama about tradition, class, and love. This groundbreaking production, widely recognized as Ghana's first independent film, won awards at FESPACO and in Europe, proving that independent film could thrive in Ghana and establishing a template for future filmmakers. 2 years later, or in 1982 by other sources, King Ampaw followed with Kukurantumi, The Road to Accra. A quiet poetic film about a father and daughter navigating modernity and migration. It screened at international festivals and cemented Ampaw's legacy as a philosophical and humanist filmmaker. These early independent productions established narrative and stylistic conventions that would characterize Ghanaian cinema for decades to come, typically addressing contemporary social issues, cultural conflicts, and personal relationships within distinctly Ghanaian contexts. And in 1986, everything changed again. William Akufo did something radical. He shot a full-length feature on VHS. He bypassed expensive celluloid and embraced video, making it faster, cheaper, and revolutionary. This technological innovation dramatically reduced production costs and democratized filmmaking, enabling a broader range of storytellers to participate. Soon, hundreds of video filmmakers followed. By the 1980s, Ghana could boast numerous films produced on VHS tapes and cassettes, establishing a distinctive production model that would influence other African industries. This grassroots movement births what would later be called Ghollywood, Ghana's answer to Hollywood, Bollywood, and Nigeria's Nollywood. It wasn't perfect and production quality varied, but it was authentic and uniquely Ghanaian, emphasizing African storytelling from African perspectives. As the 2000s arrived, new faces emerged. Shirley Frimpong-Manso, a NAFTI graduate with a sharp eye and a modern voice, made films through Sparrow Productions that felt like contemporary Accra, smart, emotional, and polished. Her works like The Perfect Picture, A Sting in a Tail, and Adam's Apples told stories of women, families, and ambition with flair. Beside her was Ken Atto, her partner, producing and shaping the aesthetics of this new cinema. And across the Atlantic, Leila Djansi, trained in the US, returned to tell Ghanaian stories with global nuance, exploring trauma, justice, and healing in films like Sinking Sands and Ties That Bind. Meanwhile, new directors like Peter Sedufia brought retro flair to contemporary film. His movie, Keteke, set in the 1980s, followed a couple trying to catch a train before giving birth, proving quirky, clever, and deeply Ghanaian. Actors too transformed the landscape, with names like Jackie Appiah, Majid Michel, Van Vika, and Lydia Forson becoming household names not just in Ghana but across Africa, bringing emotion and charisma to the screen. The development of Ghanaian cinema has also been significantly influenced by Nigeria's Nollywood industry, particularly from the late 1990s onward. The proximity between the two nations facilitated extensive collaboration, leading to a fusion of cinematic styles and the creation of cross-border productions. This relationship introduced new production techniques, storytelling approaches, and distribution models that enhanced the sophistication and reach of Ghanaian films. While collaboration provided access to larger markets, it also raised questions about the distinctiveness of Ghanaian film identity, an ongoing dynamic that continues to shape contemporary production practices and audience expectations. Finally, policy has also played a crucial role. In 2016, the National Film Authority was revived to regulate and promote the industry. It now works to classify films, support production, and position Ghana as a film hub in Western Africa. Supporting institutions like Metro TV, TV3, and private film schools have also created spaces for film beyond the traditional theatre. Festivals like the Black Star International Film Festival give filmmakers international exposure and critical discourse. Today, Ghanaian cinema stands on a century-old foundation. From colonial propaganda to Pan-African vision, from VHS entrepreneurs to Netflix auteurs, from state studios to handheld dreams, the industry has consistently adapted to changing circumstances while maintaining a commitment to African storytelling and cultural expression. The legacy of each historical period remains visible in contemporary Ghanaian cinema. The technical training programs initiated during the Nkrumah era produced skilled professionals whose expertise continue to influence current production standards. The emphasis on African perspectives and cultural authenticity established during the GFIC period remains a defining characteristic of Ghanaian films. And the technological innovations and entrepreneurial spirit of the independent era have democratized filmmaking and enabled diverse voices to contribute to the national cinematic conversation. The future is truly digital, it's global, and it's also uncertain. But if history tells us anything, it's this: Ghanaian filmmakers will adapt, they will innovate, and they will continue to tell the stories only they can tell. The industry's historical resilience and adaptability suggest continued evolution, with potential for expanding international recognition while maintaining its distinct and cultural identity. Until next time, catch you guys in the next one.